Welcome to the Sports Degos with your hosts Sonny and Murph. We advise you to turn down your speakers and turn up your crap filters because it's gonna get loud and messy. Just win, baby. Just win, baby.
If I don't have to do all the crap I did this past Saturday as far as cut back and jump over somebody and stumble, I don't worry about getting caught, period.
On an unbelievable night, swung on, there's a high drive, get way back, and it's Sonny suggested a victory for the Oakland Athletics.
And laughed when he's conquered and won.
We got some physical players on our team. That's the way you have to play to win, and that's the way we play.
Get fired up, I ain't playing. I'm telling you, get fired up. Stand up, get out of that chair, moron. It's time for the Degos. That's right, Murph and Sonny from the Dago Dungeon. You got it right here, live.
Welcome once again to the Sports Degos. I am your host, Sonny. As always, in studio is Murph. It is a crisp night up here in Oregon, and it's 9:16 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we are live in the Dego Dungeon, thesportsdegos.com, on Twitter at thesportsdegos. Welcome, my co-host, Murph. How are you?
Sonny, I'm doing fantastic. I'm so glad to be back in the Double D Dego Dungeon. And you know, I just got one thing to say. Here it is, the groove, slightly transformed, just a bit of break from the norm, just a little something to break the monotony of all that hardcore dance that has gotten to be a little bit out of control. It's cool to dance. But what about the groove that soothes and moves romance? Give me a soft, subtle mix, and if it ain't broke, then don't try to fix it. And Sonny, think of the summers of the past. Adjust the bass and let the Alpine blast. Pop in my CD and let me run a rhyme and put your car on cruise and lay back, because this is summertime. Summer, summer, summertime.
I don't know if the crowd likes you. They're grumbling, man. They're grumbling.
Excited, man. It's summertime.
Now, while I will not bash you for trying to develop new neuropathic pathways in your brain, because they say when you try to do new things, you develop these new neuropathic pathways in your brain. However, Murph, I will say the rapping, speaking, that's okay. But when you try to find the tone in summertime, that's where you went a little Jake the Snake Roberts, if you will.
Oh, man. I went Jake the Snake?
You kind of went Jake the Snake on us,
at least
man.
I didn't hold the microphone out to the crowd and ask them to sing it for me.
No, you didn't. You didn't hold the crowd and say, Sonny, you take it over, because I would have said, well, hey, my name is Sonny. I'm not DJ Jazzy Jeff and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, although Sonny is a great rap name because it rhymes with a lot of cool things like funny and money and honey and whatever,
Sure.
Money, that's.
If you're into that sort of thing, if you're into that sort of rap music and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? But, who is, Murph? Who is? Anyway, welcome to the Dego Dungeon. Murph, great intro as always. This week, Sports Degos. Again, Murph, so much to talk about, so much going on in the world of sports. I've been looking forward to this moment all day. I spent like 7 hours working in my yard. I got absolutely shellacked this morning in our online Madden football league, 40-0 to the defending Super Bowl champs Eagles, who I actually beat a year ago in the Super Bowl. But I was a little rusty, Murph. I was a little rusty. So to work off the frustration of getting shellacked, I spent 7 hours in my yard, and Murph, it looks like I'm like a 75-year-old retired guy, and I have nothing better to do than take care of my lawn. It's big pimping, baby. Big pimping.
Well, that's awesome. That's one of the fun things about being a homeowner, is getting out there in your black socks and your plaid shorts and your tank top and your hairy back and your, A's hat and going out there and mowing the lawn and, just kind of spending the day out there, taking in some sun, edging up against the sidewalk, maybe planting some begonias. It's a good time of year, man.
Something like that, Murph. Something like that. Anyway, if you're listening, you can check us out.
You don't like begonias?
I like Abe Begonia.
You mean fish?
Something like that. When the Beastie
This
Boys
is the
mentioned
perfect time to cue the Barney Miller theme song right here.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a sports show, I think. It's a sports show. We have a website, thesportsdegos.com. Check it out. You can find all of the archived podcasts there and a couple articles there as well. And Murph, on Twitter, at thesportsdegos. Again, Murph, how much do you love Twitter?
Love Twitter. My job calls for me to be, quite disconnected for periods of time. And I just absolutely love those moments where I get a chance. I got 5-10 minutes and I can hop on a Twitter on the phone and I can get caught up. I can get caught up on what's going on, not only obviously in the world of sports, but what's going on around the sports Degos. You and I both at different, moments try to be interactive with the folks that listen to our show, participate in our show. And, I don't know if we call them fans of ours or not, but certainly people that interact with us regularly. And I love getting caught up on that. It's definitely a fun tool to kind of get out there, and especially within the ranks of Raider Nation and, people that share similar interests, even outside the Raiders, but sports in general and, the Warriors or whatever it may be. Twitter is just a fantastic tool. A lot of fun.
It's a good place, man. It's a good place. It's fun. You stay up to the latest and greatest news. It was neat this last week to see the Raider rally coming to fruition, essentially, over there at Raiders HQ in Woodson. Came down, and it was really neat because last week doing the show, Dr. Death called in and said, they were going to do it. We talked about it. And he was kind of one of the grassroots organizers of it. And then, the next week it happens. And then this whole stuff with Trey Wingo goes on and stuff. And it's just like, man, Twitter's amazing. It's freaking pretty cool.
Absolutely. And you know what? And we're going to talk a little bit about the rally later. But I just would like to highlight the fact that we found out about it when Dr. Death called in and announced his intentions on our show. And I don't know if that was the time that the story broke.
No, it was already going on Twitter for a while.
Okay, well, it certainly broke to me. And so I just think that was so cool that our little show was on the front end of what ultimately ended up being a national story. And so thanks for Dr. Death for coming on with us and participating in the Sports Degos. And I thought that was pretty cool. That was a fun story to follow throughout the week because, I'm watching this thing, evolve on ESPN. And I'm like, hey, man, we were there. We were on the front end of that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat, man. Pretty neat. And we'll get to it later, Murph. But right now,
we'll get to it. Sorry.
Right now, we have a little thing that we do, and it's called Beer Wars. Murph, perhaps the only thing we're bigger fans of. Let's see, no. Perhaps the closest thing to match our fandom to the Raiders would be our geekiness towards Star Wars. I've never been one of those guys to read the books. I don't know if you're a Star Wars book reader or not, but I'm definitely...
Yeah, I read Star Wars comics, though. I've read plenty of Star Wars comics.
Okay, that's good. I used to read
It's a wonder I ever found a girl.
This is true. Well, she found you. she found you, we'll say.
There you go. I'll kick my coverage, though, there's no doubt.
Yes, we all did. If you're yes, anyway. So, without any further ado, Murph, what are you drinking this week in Beer Wars?
Well, I love that music. Well, speaking of hot chicks, Sonny, I found a new one. And not anything that would be questionable morally, nor infringe on any commitment I have made to my beloved bride. But I did find a new lady, and she's blonde. And man, Sonny, she's a bombshell. I just put the picture up on Twitter. Sonny, I've been a longtime fan of Guinness. And Newcastle, and any of the dark beers, Samuel Adams, Amber Bock, you name it, just about any dark beer I'm a fan of. But probably one of my favorites, if not top one or two, is Newcastle. And Newcastle just recently released a pale ale. They call it a real British beauty, and that is Newcastle Bombshell. And on the back of the bottle it says, "Simply stunning. An Englishman, or in this case, an Irishman, or half Irishman, half Italian, his first love is his brown ale. However, in the summer, he often fancies blondes instead. With this inspiration, we've created Newcastle Bombshell, an English-style blonde ale. The combination of Cascade, Hellertau, and Northdown hops balance this golden-colored ale's light aroma and bitterness with toasted malt to ensure a silky smooth finish. After one sip of this brew, you'll agree she's a real bombshell." And Sonny, I gotta tell you, this thing is the bomb. It is absolutely delicious. I've always enjoyed like Sierra Nevada's pale ale. I think that's a super, probably one of the best pale ale. This one is way up there with it, man. This pale blonde ale is absolutely fantastic. It's a little bit out of my comfort zone, being that it's not a dark beer. But, again, it's that time of year. It's summertime. You want something a little light, a little refreshing? And Newcastle Bombshell has delivered. Good stuff.
All right, Murph, appreciate it. As always, you never leave the listeners wondering about your beer. You cover it very well. You're a man of many words when it comes to describing your beer. Unlike myself, I try to let my beer do the talking, but sometimes that may make me lose the competitions, because with all that fluff you're doing, it makes it sound like you're drinking a better beer than me and stuff, and I don't know. I don't know if that's always the case, but it could be, maybe because you're a salesman, right?
I'm a salesman by trade.
So maybe that's a benefit for you. So I'm going to try to go a la Murph tonight and give you a long description of what I'm drinking. I like it.
Let me lean back. Let me hit the recliner button here. Let me lean back. I'm looking forward to this.
Here we go. Blank is a lager that was originally brewed by the German-born Mexican brewer Wilhelm Hasse in 1897. The brand was named Blank to commemorate the arrival of a new century, and the bottles were marked with the blank, thus blank, which is Spanish for two blank. The main brand, Blank, is a 4.45% pale lager sold in green bottles. Now, Murph, a little bit about Wilhelm Hasse. Wilhelm Hasse. He immigrated from his homeland and established his Moctezuma Brewery in Veracruz, Mexico in 1897. Hasse blended his brewing heritage with the spirit of Mexican tradition to create Blank. Murph, do you have any idea what beer I'm drinking?
Well, assuming by all those blanks and bleeps and skips, I'm going to assume it's something vulgar.
Nope. That was the name of the beer, Murph. The name of the beer is Dos Equis, Murph. In the green bottle.
So two X's and not three is what you're saying.
Pretty much. Good one, Murph. That was pretty good. The brand was named Siglo XX, 20th century, to commemorate the arrival of the new century, Murph. And the bottles were marked with the Roman numeral for 20XX, thus Dos Equis, which is Spanish for 2X. See? You learn something new on the Sports Degos.
You just paved a neural pathway.
You learn something new. All you little brains out there that are flourishing right now, you're welcome.
Well,
mine takes a step back with every drink I take.
Well, that's good stuff. Dos Equis is a fantastic beer. I think we talked a lot about Mexican beers last week when you were drinking Pacifico, and you have certainly followed it up strong with your Dos Equis offering. They certainly have one of the best marketed beers. I absolutely love those commercials. The latest one when he says, when an opportunity knocks and he doesn't answer, opportunity waits. So I think that's just a fantastic marketing push behind Dos Equis, a good beer. But you know what? I got to say, Dos Equis been around for a while and kind of established. The Newcastle Bombshell's kind of a new thing. I think I'm bringing something additional to the table here. I'm pretty confident in my choice, and I'm curious to see what the Twitterverse has to say. Shoot us out, twitter.com/thesportsdegos or at thesportsdegos, and let us know what you think. Is it Sonny's Dos Equis or Murph's Newcastle, a real British beauty bombshell?
Now, why you gotta go, is it Sonny's Dos Equis or Murph's Newcastle? Why do you gotta go that route?
Well, then you take the voiceover. Go ahead.
No, it's all you. I'm just wondering why you're so insecure. You got to have a little more inflection in your beer.
Well, with the marketing push behind Dos Equis and the quality of it, I got to do all I can to market Newcastle's Bombshell, a real British beauty.
All right, Murph. All right. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be coming back with the segments Shut Your Fat Mouth and Big Stupid, brought to you by the Sports Degos.
Hey, all you podcasters, put the Cheetos down, get out of your mom's basement, find a job, do something worthwhile. Hey, if that don't work out for you, listen to Sonny and Murph. They got some good stuff, you know what I mean?
Welcome back to the Sports Degos with Sonny and the Murph. All right, welcome back to the Sports Degos, thesportsdegos.com, on Twitter at the Sports Degos. Murph, every week we realize that since our show is once a week on Saturdays, we're not, I hate to break it to you, Murph, but we're not breaking any news segments. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
What? What are you talking about?
We're not cutting edge. It's not like guys are tuning in to listen to us to find out the latest and greatest sports news.
So you're telling me that no one's tuning in to find out that the Spurs held on to beat the Memphis Grizzlies in overtime and have taken a commanding 3-0 lead in the series, and no one in the history of the NBA has ever come back after being down 3-0 in a series, and the total ever is like 107-0 as far as teams' record after being down 3-0? Is that what you're telling me, that no one's listening into this show to find that out?
Correct.
Oh.
It's good that you know that. I would stick to stat keeping as a potential second career versus rapping. But Murph, we don't break news here. So what we have to do is we have to analyze it from our perspective. And so what we do is we have a little segment called Shut Your Fat Mouth. Murph, a lot of candidates every week for Shut Your Fat Mouth. Who gets it this week?
Man, there absolutely is. There are tons of candidates every week. Sometimes it's just, it's stealing candy from a baby. I try to look for, the one that is most relevant to what we do. The one that maybe doesn't carry as much weight, unfortunately, as some of other things. One of the biggest ones this week was Sergio Garcia's comments in regards to Tiger Woods. Sergio, can we just shut up? Can we get over the racism, please? I mean, and that goes for everybody and everything and in all regard. The fact that this guy is making ill references to Tiger, it's so immature and it's just lame, and I'm over it, and I wish those types of stories would go away. But I've chose something else, something that's a little more relevant to the Sports Degos this week, and that is one Trey Wingo, who is a host of NFL Live on ESPN, a show I'm pretty fond of, actually. I really enjoy the analysis that goes on that show. We have talked in the past about players that we didn't like when they were players, and then they become analysts, and we like them. Teddy Bruschi is one of those guys. There's a handful of guys that come in and out of that show that I really like, and I've always liked listening to Trey Wingo's analysis. He kind of reminds me of how Rich Eisen is on NFL Network. He doesn't try to pretend to know everything. He kind of depends on the guys that are on the panel to provide the real insight of the sport. But he's a good facilitator of the show. And so I've always liked Trey Wingo. Well, something that he said this week in direct reference to the groundswell of Raider Nation in response to the prospect of re-signing Charles Woodson and the fact that he was coming to Alameda to potentially re-sign, to visit with the team. There was guys like Dr. Death were on the front end of this thing, unprovoked, to show up at the facility to try to sway Charles Woodson to sign. Now, ultimately, this is a business, and we all know that. But just showing the guy that we still got your back, the Raider Nation is still behind you. You went off, you played with Green Bay, you got your ring. Come on home, Chuck. We miss you, we love you. Finish it off where it started. And that was a really cool moment for fandom, and especially the fact that the guy signed, and then he went out and met with all those guys and gals that showed up at the facility to shake their hands, sign autographs, take pictures. It was a really cool moment, I think, in Raider history. Now, they've been criticized that, look at Raider fans, they have to beg for this 36-year-old guy to come back. Those people that are saying those types of criticisms are completely missing the point of the reason why those folks showed up. So, all that said, Trey Wingo on NFL Live busted out with the Raiders had a social campaign, including having fans show up at the facility in order to persuade Charles Woodson to resign. And everybody lashed back out at Trey Wingo, absolutely reasonably, because he made it sound like the Raiders were responsible for generating the fan support and getting these folks to show up at the facility, not that it was a fan groundswell on its own. So that alone was pretty bad, but that to me wasn't a big enough reason for Trey Wingo to get shut your fat mouth. The reason he gets shut your fat mouth from us this week is because he followed up the next day after all this criticism with an interview on 95.7 FM The Game with the Rise guys, a pretty high-profile sports talk show, and they asked him about it. And, Sonny, we always say, if you make a mistake, just own it.
Own it.
Own it. The cover-up is always much worse than the crime. Just admit that you probably said something you shouldn't have and you pissed some people off and move on. But instead, Trey Wingo offered this up. Well, when I said Raiders, I meant everybody collectively. The fans, the organization, the players. I meant everybody. When I said Raiders, I meant to say Raider Nation. I'm like, what?
Didn't he say, he said Raider fans, I think is what he said.
How does that, really? I'm pretty sure even, at least in the second part of the interview, he says Raiders. And that was the part that got me because I'm like, okay, Raider fan, Raider Nation is not plural. Raiders is. And he said clearly the Raiders had a social campaign. And that to me, Trey Wingo, I've already been rambling long enough. I'm done. Trey Wingo, shut your fat mouth.
Is this on? Hey. Is this on? Hey, shut your fat mouth. I'm talking here.
Yeah, Murph, ain't nothing we can say about this that ain't already been said this week. It's kind of an old story at this point, 4 or 5 days old. No matter what he says, the sad thing is that the Raiders have been kicked for so long, on national media, local media, anywhere you go. I went to the hardware store today. There's a Bronco fan bringing me up. He's trying to rip me, he said something stupid, and I was like, oh, yeah, we got Woodson when you guys wanted him. He goes, oh, one player. I go, oh, you're all happy about Welker. And then he's like, yeah. He goes, well, at least we'll win a championship. I go, yeah, then he'll be tied with the Raiders because he only got 2. He goes, well, at least we won those back-to-back. I was like, here's an idiot. Difference? I know. He's an idiot. Anyway, so the Raiders have been kicked for so long, man. And when we do something good, when something cool happens, that's so organic from the fans, and a lot of it from Twitter and stuff, it seemed like. And then for Wingo to bash that, or to not bash it, but just to not get it right in his reporting, that was sad, man. That was really... it was not so much like it made me mad, but it was like, gosh dang it, man. Raiders can't catch a break, you know? And it truly is us against the world. I don't care what franchise you are. Nobody is like the Raiders, and nobody can say it's us against the world more so than the Oakland Raiders. And Trey Wingo's thing was just another glaring example of that. So, yeah, Wingo, shut your fat mouth. And in a distant second, Sergio, really, man? As if all your freaking foot adjusting and stuff wasn't enough, you're going to come on and say something like that? I mean, really, dude? You know, and he's a Spaniard. It'd be one thing if he was a white dude, but he's a Spaniard. So you know he's heard some stuff playing on the PGA Tour and stuff like that. And then for him to kind of join into that kind of third grade mentality and freaking say something like that to Tiger, dude, that was low, dude. That was low. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was sad. It was eerily reminiscent of Fuzzy Zeller's comments, back, I don't know how long, it's been almost, 10 years ago or something since all that happened. And, it's just like, come on, man. I just, it's so childish, like you said. It's third grade mentality, and it's like, aren't we past that? Aren't we societally, aren't we done with that type of thinking? Anyways, it's not even worth our analysis because it's just so, it's just ridiculous.
The sad thing is I don't think we are past it. I think the more you look and stuff, it's pretty prevalent everywhere you look. All right. Next segment, Murph, I believe it's called Big Stupid.
Stupid, a person below normal intelligence.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
I know I stand in line until you think you have the time to spend an evening with me.
Stupid is, stupid does, sir.
And if we go someplace to dance, I know that there's a chance you won't be leaving with me.
What are you, stupid or what?
Then afterwards we drop into a quiet little place and have a drink or two.
Are you stupid or something?
And then I go and spoil it all by saying something stupid like I love you.
What's the matter with you, boy? You too stupid to do what your coach tells you?
No, what?
Murph, who's the big stupid of the week?
Well, it's funny. I was really trying not to have a completely Raider-centric show, but, these first two segments just happened to pertain to Raider Nation, and they were both national stories, and, our second segment, it's almost too silly to comment. It's so stupid.
It's so
I can't
stupid.
believe it's not right. I can't believe this guy is this stupid. And I'm talking about Keenan Allen, okay? Keenan Allen is a draft pick of the San Diego Chargers. Keenan Allen is a native of California and has a Raider history of fandom in his family and whatnot.
As he should.
As he should.
Continue.
But the simple fact is he was drafted by possibly the biggest modern rival of those Oakland Raiders. So for someone to grow up in a Raider family, to have Raider gear, that's not a surprise. You and I have plenty of Raider gear and always have our whole lives. So it's no surprise that Keenan Allen has some Raider gear, in his wardrobe. But you would think that immediately after being drafted by said rival, arch nemesis of the Oakland Raiders, you would park that stuff. You would get rid of it. You would, realize that being a Raider fan, you know who their rivals are. So if you're now playing for that rival, there's no way you're going to keep any Raider gear in your house, let alone are you going to wear it. Well, this big stupid wore a Raider hat in public, and not only did he wear the Raider hat in public, he took a picture of himself and put it on Twitter. You big stupid. Don't you think that somebody might take umbrage of that, being not only the fan base, but, I don't know, maybe the team? I mean, I get that players often get criticized for wearing gear of another team that may not necessarily fit with the city that they play in. because they're making a fashion statement or it looks a certain way, matches whatever. I get all that. If you play in Milwaukee and you're rocking a Dodgers hat, if you play for the Milwaukee Bucks and you're rocking a Dodgers hat, I don't think there's any big issue there. But if you play for the Cleveland Cavaliers and you show up wearing a Miami Heat jersey, guess what? Someone's going to complain. And I can't believe that this big stupid was that stupid to wear a Raider hat. Now, he apologized since and said it won't happen again, yada, yada, yada. But my goodness, I can't believe that this guy was that disconnected to put the dang thing on to begin with.
Is it so much? I mean, there's so many things here, right? Do you think he was consciously aware of what he was doing, that he was a draft pick of the Chargers, and he's still rocking the hat? I mean, that alone is like, man, really? I mean, what would you do, if all of a sudden you see Sile Moore rolling down the street wearing a Broncos hat? It'd be like,
gosh,
he'd be ousted, right? It wouldn't matter if the dude came back and had 50 sacks in his opening year, which is be completely unheard of. Bro's rocking a Broncos hat. He's cut off, man. He's cut off. I don't know how they do it down there in, San Diego adult land, but I imagine they'll forgive him and move on, right? Because they're nice, happy fans and stuff like that. But you got to think when the Chargers come to town, which we will be at, this guy's going to get it, dude. I mean, can you imagine what Raider Nation is going to do to this guy? They're going to eat him up alive.
Oh, we're going to absolutely eat him alive. And the fact that we know now what kind of a fan he grew up as, heck yeah, he's gonna get an earful, and rightfully so. He deserves.
And then can you imagine what the Raider players are gonna do and stuff? It's like, oh my gosh, you're gonna have a field day with this guy, man. It won't even be funny. And then the big stupid goes on Twitter and it just takes it public, as if walking around with it wasn't enough. Like, I wish you could be that fly on the wall or be inside of his head when he realized what he did. When he takes the picture and that first tweet comes across, right? Like saying, I don't know what it said, but probably something along the lines of, hey, what kind of hat you have on? Or, hey, what are you doing here and stuff? That moment when you realize you did something really stupid and then you're like, oh crap. Right? Yeah. But this guy, it was on Twitter. It was national attention. You can't take that stuff back, So, oh my God.
And they gave him a hat. I watched the draft. What's the first friggin' thing they give the players after Goodell or whoever else that announced the pick? After they shake their hand, what's the first thing they do? They hand him a friggin' hat. He's got a Charger hat, you idiot.
He has one. Well, Murph, it just goes to show, the San Diego adults. So that just makes that game that much more entertaining, and I can't wait to see Keenan Allen live October 6th at Wapapalooza 13, Murph.
Hey, let's wear San Diego hats. We'll just say that stands for Sports Degos.
I think you should fall off the face of the earth for even suggesting that.
Padres hats have an SD on them.
That's worse than what Sergio Garcia said. Anyway, I'm gonna go talk some sense into Murph. We're gonna listen to a little Autumn Wind, and we'll come back and we'll talk Raiders Repertoire. You're listening to the Sports Degos. Welcome back to the Sports Degos, thesportsdegos.com, at the Sports Degos. Sonny and Murph in the Dego Dungeon, about to kick off the Raiders Repertoire segment. Murph, do we talk too much Raiders on the show? Are we alienating other fan bases out there? Are we alienating listeners by always discussing the Raiders here?
I don't know, quite potentially, but here's what it is. You and I talked long about when we discussed the format of this show and the direction of this show. We talked about that we wanted to have it be you and I sitting around having a beer, talking about sports. And, this is what we would be talking about if you and I were sitting at a bar somewhere, having some chicken wings, drinking a couple of beers. So, while it may be, this is who we are. This is kind of what we're into. And, we like to branch out a little bit and to get out there. And, I would love to talk about, the series between the Spurs and the Grizzlies, or even the fact that the Indiana Pacers, after dropping a close game 1, came right back and won game 2. And now that turned that into a series, kind of nullifying home court advantage for the Heat. Like, I would love to discuss things like that, but that's not really what's on the forefront of what we love. What we love is Raider football, A's baseball, the Warriors, the Blazers, and so Star Wars. And so, I guess if we're appealing to more of a niche audience, then that's what we do. And if 3 people listen to us or 3,000 people listen to us, you and I are going to still do the same show. So
this is true. Murph,
I love what we do.
Is there any aspect of the Raiders signing Charles Woodson that hasn't been discussed yet? Big signing, pretty big contract if you think about it. $4.3 million for 1 year, with the $1 million base salary, which means what do we owe him? $3.3 in bonus money.
It's in incentives. You got a $700,000 signing bonus, which is the guaranteed portion of the contract, and then the rest of it is in incentives. So I'm sure there's a roster bonus, games played. There'll be turnovers, depending on how many picks he gets, things like that.
So Raiders could cut him and really not be in that bad of shape financially. They only owe him
not at all. Michael Huff's money is coming off the books this week. The Raiders right now are just shy of, I think it's $300,000 under the salary cap. And Michael Huff's money is coming off this week, and that's $8 million. And so not only will they have the ability to pay Charles Woodson his $700,000 plus whatever else he earns, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders go out and sign somebody else here in the next week or two.
So let me ask you this question. In the offseason, Broncos get Wes Welker, Chargers get Dwight Freeney, and the Raiders get Charles Woodson. Who has the biggest impact and why?
That's a very, very good question. And, my initial response would be Wes Welker, because he's going to be the more featured player. I think that he's going to be a huge part of that Broncos offense. Very similar role to what he had with the Patriots. Dwight Freeney, he was already a partial player anyways. I mean, that guy's going to see maybe 20 snaps a game. I mean, he's not going to be on the field constantly. But a guy like Charles Woodson, though, I would be willing to bet that while Welker is going to be involved in more plays on the field, he's not going to have the amount of impact based on the amount of receptions he's going to get. Even if he averages, 6 catches a game, I mean, that's only 6 catches a game. If Woodson is on the field for 50 snaps, 40 snaps, I mean, what's the number that we're looking for there on defense? I think that he could potentially have the bigger impact on the team. But more importantly, off the field, now that Ray Lewis is retired, who's up there as far as the senior leaders, the looked up to type guys on defense in the NFL? Dwight Freeney's not that guy, and obviously Wes Welker doesn't play defense. He's an offensive player. So I think Charles Woodson, especially working in a young Raiders secondary, I mean, to me, that's where the impact is going to come from. I don't care if he plays, he's not going to play. He might play inside covering a slot, but a majority of his work on the field, to me at least the way that my mind's eye is picturing this, he's going to play a safety much like Ed Reed. It's going to be a read and react, play center field, give Branch the ability to go up and play the run, let him play a lot more press, let him play a lot more aggressively, and not have to worry about somebody blowing coverage behind him because Charles Woodson's not going to do that. So that, to me, that's the way I see it. Now, some guys have speculated that, oh, no, Charles Woodson's going to be more of a blitzer. He's going to be more active at the line of scrimmage. I'm not so sure. I mean, maybe. But we'll see. But anyways, I think ultimately, short answer to your question, Charles Woodson's going to have a bigger impact on the Oakland Raiders and already has, much more so than Dwight Freeney and I think a slight much more so over Wes Welker.
On Twitter, Ed Marshall up in Alaska corrects me, Murph. He says Andy Reid in KC is the biggest impact. Somebody has to feed that guy. He is going to be grumpy smelling the barbecue there.
Oh, my gosh. The biggest impact will be Andy Reid sitting down for a Monday morning quarterback meeting.
Yes. The biggest impact will be that for sure. You know, you make some good points. And I guess when you think about impact, you have to unpack that a little bit. You have to say impact on the field, impact in the locker room, impact for win-loss, impact for the long haul. Freeney's a great player. Is he a little old? Yeah. Does he still have some left in the tank? Sure. He'll probably be a starter, and he could probably mentor Manti Te'o. And so much like Woodson's role in Oakland, mentoring the young guys, I believe Freeney will have that role as well. In Denver, it's pretty obvious they're Super Bowl or bust at this point. Manning's getting old. Welker ain't no spring chicken and stuff, and so they're looking to do it now. And so I think the biggest impact on the field would have to be Welker in Denver. I mean, all bias aside, Welker's a stud, and we all know Manning's a stud. And to put those two guys together, I mean, that's just like Brady and Welker, I mean, you got to think Welker's going to have similar numbers as he had with Brady, and Manning might just be that much better with Welker as a target and as smart as Welker is. So I would say, go ahead. But I'm going to say on the field, I think Welker is going to have the biggest impact.
I would agree with you, except for the fact that there's going to be a lot of targets in Denver. And outside of the tight ends, obviously, New England with Gronk and Hernandez, the wide receiver targets, I mean, Brandon Lloyd was a kind of a feature in that offense, but Wes Welker was the feature in that offense. Yes, they have all the 5'9" white guys on the planet that can run fast, and Woodhead and Edelman and those guys. But really, when you think about the New England offense, again, outside of the tight ends maybe, and there's been a lot of injuries there, it was kind of like Welker was the consistent part of that offense. I don't think he's going to be that in Denver. Denver's got a lot of targets. They got just in the wide receiver core, you got Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker, who those guys are going to be the guys that I think or should have the bigger impact if this team is going to win a championship. I think that if the Denver offense is dependent on Wes Welker to guide them to a Super Bowl, I think they're misguided, and I don't expect that to happen at all. So I'm thinking more if he does have that kind of impact that you're talking about, I think overall team success is going to suffer. Whereas if he's a feature of the offense, he is going to excel because he's not dependent. The team is not going to be dependent on him to reach those levels. And I think overall the team will be more successful. So it's going to be a very, very interesting season to watch when it comes to the Denver Broncos. And I think something that you made you brought up, and is an excellent point. Their window is so small. They have, they're what? Got all the aging players on offense, losing Doomerville in the offseason. Granted, they have some young players, but their secondary is absolutely brutal. Plus, you got Champ Bailey, who is, you want to talk about a small window. This has got to be a year or two away. So, and how much productivity are you going to get out of him now? And
Bailey is playing with one foot too, because his other foot is shoved so far up his mouth for being wrong about Charles Woodson that we're just going to close the door on his old ass career. You know what I'm saying?
Excellent point. So, that's what I just don't see, I think that Denver, sure, do you have a chance? Sure. Are they one of the favorites in the AFC? Absolutely. There's no doubt. But this team, if they don't get it done this year, then they're in big, big trouble. Because like we said, the guys are aging, and I think to come full circle, if they're dependent on Wes Welker to be that huge of a part of their offense, I think the overall team success will suffer.
I don't think they have to be dependent upon him. I just think mixed in with Eric Decker and Demaryius Thomas, he's going to have a field day. I think they're going to light it up. I think Manning will be close to 5,000 passing yards, and it just seems like those guys they're going to light it up, man. I mean, think about it. It's Manning. Come on. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. As much as we hate him and clown on him, the dude can play ball. He's a student of the game.
Well, let me ask you this now, but is that going to translate into amazing regular season success and regular season numbers? Is this team going to go 13-3 again? And if so, are they going to have another first round exit? Should they come up against, I don't know.
Who knows?
That's what I'm curious of, is that, if they go up against a team with a secondary like the Houston Texans, in the first round of the playoffs, are they going to be able to get out of that? I don't know, man.
Anyway, let's come on to Woodson now. Welker will have a good impact. We spent way too much time talking about the Broncos. Come on.
All that talk about us being Raider focused, then here we are branching out.
Yeah. Well, it's the AFC West. We should dissect them a little bit. Woodson, I don't know how big of an impact he's going to have. Last year he played 7 games. The year before that, 15, and then complete seasons, 2008, 2009, 2010. He's getting old. This is going to be what? He came in the league in 98. So this will be his 15th season in a position where speed matters now. Can he offset maybe losing a step by his smarts and kind of being able to read, what the offense is doing? Sure, he can do that for sure. I just don't know how big of an impact it's going to be on the field. I think what you've said a couple times, and I think it's very true, Woodson will free up Branch to be more of a helping out with the running game, so we can put that extra safety in the box and have Woodson back there playing center field. I think that's good, but I think his impact is going to be in mentoring a younger guy. Can you imagine the conversations with Woodson and Hayden? This is going to be huge for a guy like Hayden. This could catapult Hayden 3 or 4 years down the road in only 1 year, having Woodson's wisdom right there with them. This could propel that young guy to be a star in year 1 or 2 instead of year 4 or 5. I think that's the biggest impact Woodson's going to make.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I mean, it's already happened once before when you look at the impact that he had on Nnamdi Asomugha. I mean, there's no doubt the amount of impact that Charles Woodson had on Nnamdi's career. And obviously we're not inside the building, we're not in the meetings, but I think that when you look at the overall progress of his career and where it went when he became a full-time cornerback, he learned a lot from Charles Woodson. Of course, he also learned a lot from Willie Brown and all the other greats of the Raiders that are around the facility and still involved in coaching and things like that. But I think yes, that the ultimate payoff for this football team is the impact that he will have on conditioning, discipline, technique, all the things that he can teach. That's going to carry on. And that's going to be ultimately the legacy of the second trip for Charles Woodson, to Oakland. But I think that he'll have some success on the field. I mean, he's going to play safety. He's not going to be. They're not going to ask him to line up one-on-one with Wes Welker out of the slot and cover him. That's not what's going to happen. This is not a Raider team that's going to run, press man coverage, 2 safeties over the top all game long, every game anymore. That's not going to happen. They're going to creatively blitz. They're going to play a lot more zone coverage, and who better than to play a deep zone coverage than a cagey vet like Charles Woodson. So if, you got other guys playing underneath and all he's got to do is worry about his area of responsibility in the field, playing back in the secondary. We need a read and react guy. The Raiders haven't had a read and react guy at safety. I don't know. I can't even think of one off the top of my head. It's been so long. I mean, it's been a long time since we've had a guy that can sit back, recognize a play at the snap, and be able to get his body in position. And that's, you mentioned about the speed, and I think that's one of the things that really gives these guys that play in the secondary that extra life, whether it's Darrell Green, whether it's, as we're seeing with Ed Reed. It's you got to get in the right position by analyzing what's going on the offensive side of the ball, much more so than being dependent on your physical abilities to outrun a guy to a spot. It's do you have the wits and the ability to read to be able to move when the quarterback doesn't know that you're going to move that direction. I think that's what's really key when you look at these guys as they get older. And so I think that's really where Charles Woodson is going to shine on the field. Now, they may be few and far between. I agree with you. He's not going to be on the field, 3 snaps, every series, and play all 3 downs. I get that. He's not going to do that. But if this guy can contribute again to, 40 snaps a game, maybe? I mean, I don't know. How many do you think? I mean, do you think CMP is a part-time player, or is he gonna be a full-time player on defense? I mean, what do you think?
You got to think he's going to be there for the important passing downs for sure. So 3rd and long, he'll be on the field. 3rd and long,
where we've suffered all year last year.
Yeah, he'll be there for sure. You got to think he's going to be there on those important downs. Whether he plays the whole game, I don't know. I think that's going to be something to watch for sure. How his old legs work. Going down, especially if the Raiders somehow, some way make a playoff push, keeping him healthy and fresh for the entire year will be something to keep track of as the Raiders move forward. Big signing though. Stoked he's there. Probably one of the, the biggest, maybe the biggest, definitely one of the coolest free agent signings in a long time, especially when you and many others thought he might have been used in Oakland as leverage to get a better contract with the Broncos.
Yeah, I'll eat that one. I thought this for sure was, I misspoke a little bit in the last show, and I thought that when I said, why does he need to come back again? And the reason, I'm like, why would he come back again? He's already been here once. Why would he come back a second time other than if he was trying to leverage the team? Now, I misspoke. The first time he was in the Bay Area, he met with the Niners. And so he talked to the Raiders, but not face-to-face. But he was in the Bay Area. And so I misspoke on that one, and I'll take that one back. But yes, but I still, even knowing that now, I still was like, this guy, he's using us. He's going to – said it to Dr. Death, that how are you going to feel when the guy leaves and all this, and he just leverages back for a Bronco contract. But ultimately, though, let me say this. If the Broncos would have offered the same amount of money as the Raiders, guess what he'd be wearing today? He ain't going to be wearing a Raider hat like Keenan Allen. He'd be wearing orange and blue. And it's the fact that Charles Woodson signed the most lucrative offer that was out there for him. So as much as we like to think, it was the fans and it was. Paid. It did, I'm sure, paid. Have an influence. He got paid. He got paid as much as he possibly could. So It is a nice story. It's and let me button it up with this. The Raiders already have 3 starting corners and 2 starting safeties. They have Porter, Jenkins, now DJ Hayden, to start at corners, and Usama Young and Tyvon Branch at the safety positions. They're not dependent on Charles Woodson to be a starting safety on this football team. So that tells me that the impact is going to come off the field. If they do need him in certain situations, like you mentioned, on long 3rd downs where we got torched last year repeatedly, that's where his impact is going to come from. And so now all saying this, forget it. He ain't going to play 40 snaps. If he plays 20 snaps, we'll be just fine, and he'll be worth the $4.3 million.
Murph, you never want to be compared to a city that has never won a championship. Regardless of the context in which you're compared to that city, you don't want any association with that city. However, Cribbs, newly signed kick returner / punt returner / receiver, compared Oakland to Cleveland. I don't know what to think of this. I can see where he's coming from. You know, he says this, meaning speaking about the Raiders and the Cleveland and, you know, Oakland and the Browns. I feel like the Raiders are a traditional winning team like Cleveland is. They won a lot in the past. Let's stop right there.
Yeah.
The Browns
really
have
hit the rewind machine there.
The Browns have never been to the Super Bowl. So what's this guy saying by saying they won a lot in the past? This makes me think this guy doesn't even know his football history, which, you know, if he can run fast and doesn't fumble it, he doesn't even need to. Anyway, moving forward, they have a history of it. It's a blue-collar underdog city, and it would be so great to come here and win games and fight for an opportunity to have a chance to win games. I feel the Raiders are moving in the right direction, and I'd love to be part of that when they turn it all around. That's cool. That's all great. But to compare us to Cleveland, but then it's like he doesn't even get his history right. So does it really mean anything by him comparing us to Cleveland if his facts aren't even straight?
Well, I mean, I guess factually he's accurate. Now, relevantly, is he accurate? The answer to that is no. And I mean, you know, you gotta punch the Wayback Machine real far to find the success of the Cleveland Browns. And you know, going back to the days of Otto Graham and, you know, what did he win? 9 championships in 10 years and all that. In the AAFFLL or whatever the heck that league was called back then. I mean, you know, there was success in Cleveland. But, you know, the Raiders have, at least in the modern day, in the Super Bowl era, have had success where Cleveland hasn't. In fact, the Cleveland Browns, and really along with a lot of the other Cleveland franchises, are one of the most snake-bitten franchises in all of sports. I mean, you know, whether you're talking about Biner fumbling at the goal line or Michael Jordan elevating and, you know, hitting his shot over Craig Elo. I mean, there's so many instances where Cleveland has come up short. So here's where I give him forgiveness. Is that was it an ill-advised statement or comparison? Yeah, absolutely. Was it as bad as Keenan Allen wearing the Raiders hat? I don't think so, because Josh Cribbs, at least, he was trying to draw reference to the only thing he's ever been exposed to. Josh Cribbs has not been, you know, a seasoned veteran playing for 8 teams in the NFL. He's not an analyst. You know, if this would have come out of the mouth of a guy like Warren Sapp or Michael Irvin or Trey Wingo, then we would have annihilated him, because it's like, you should know better. But Josh Cribbs, what does he know better? I don't think he does, because you figure when he's in Cleveland, they are going to glom on to any level of success that they've had. Even if it was 70 years ago, they're going to glom on to any portions of success that they've had. So that's got to have been in his, you know, what am I trying to say? He's had to have taken notice of it as a player in that organization. So he's just trying to draw a comparison and to draw reference to what he knows. So I don't want to beat up on the guy too much. Again, was it ill-advised and a little misguided? Yeah, because you never want to be compared to anything Cleveland. But it may not have been so bad. I like you said, you know, get out there, Cribbs. Let's see you perform on the field. I'm much more interested in what his on-field impact is going to be versus what knucklehead things come out of his mouth, and especially in accordance to what Jacoby Ford's role is going to be on this team. Because I still, as much as now here we are a week into this, I still can't wrap my brain around what the purpose of this signing was. To me, it's still a duplication of effort, and I wonder if the Oakland Raiders know something about Jacoby Ford that we as fans don't know, because to me this looks like the same guy, just a handful of years older.
Well, maybe Ford's going to have a different role. I mean, maybe Ford will be straight receiver and Cribbs is returning kicks. Maybe vice versa. Who knows? It'll be interesting to check it out as we move forward here. Murph, OTAs are quickly becoming not mandatory, but mandatory. You know, they've always been voluntary. You show up if you want to show up. You don't show up if you don't want to show up, whatever. But they're underway. And something pretty cool happened in Oakland, Murph. Everybody on the roster for the Raiders showed up for OTAs. Except, Murph, for one guy. Any guesses who that guy is, Murph?
Yeah, I know exactly who it is. It is our buddy Jano, Mr. Seabass himself.
Does that bother you? You know, what do you get from this story? Does it make you mad he didn't show up? Is it like, big deal? Is it like, or are you more excited that that's the only guy who didn't show up and everybody else was there?
I think that's the point, is that everyone was there except for Jano. You know, Jano's, you know, he's been a long-time member of this football team. You know, he's a veteran guy. You know, he had an excused absence from the facility for OTAs. And you know, when you look at kickers, you know, kickers get, you know, made fun of a lot, especially punters and things like that. But you know, when you look at the way that these guys warm up and these guys practice, they're not part of the team practices anyways, because they're on their own. I mean, when you know, it's as much of a team sport as football is, American football and the NFL is, the kickers have nothing to do with it. It's, if anything, I mean, really, I'm trying to just say that they have to even pair with a long snapper or the guy that holds the punt or the kick. But even then, I mean, you're on your own. You're either going to make it or you're not. So they're not practicing actively with 10 other guys on offense or 10 other guys on defense. So so all that said, aside from the fact that he's already been a longtime member of this football team and an aging guy and a guy that maybe has you know, an injury going on, it's absolutely bothers me zero that he's not there. But that said, the good part, like you mentioned, everyone is there. That tells us there's no Richard Seymour's, there's no Tommy Kelly's, there's no Michael Huff's, there's none of these guys that, and I don't know if those guys specifically, but my point is that there are no guys that think, yeah, you know, I don't need to be there. Richard Seymour, I remember specifically being one of those guys that kind of showed up on the bus one day to play a football game. Like he didn't make practices, he didn't do any of that kind of stuff. He just showed up. There are no guys on this football team that are just going to show up and play. Every single one of these guys on this team, strictly by the fact that they were all there at the first week of OTAs, tells us they're all hungry. To see a guy like Darren McFadden, who's had an extensive injury past, to look on the Raiders splash page on Raiders.com and to see Tyler Wilson handing the ball off to Darren McFadden, even the fact that they're just in shorts and helmets, man, that's awesome. That is awesome. This is a dedicated group that knows they got an uphill climb, and you know what? A lot of these guys are under 1-year contract. I can't imagine that in their meetings with McKenzie and even Dennis Allen early on, they didn't go somewhat the route of, okay, look, we'll bring you on a 1-year deal. You perform, we'll sign you to a multi-year deal next year when we got $69 million in free cap space. So everyone's trying to earn their spot, and earn their job, and I think that ultimately drove the turnout as well. And I think just like many, many, many other things going on in Raiderville, this is something for us to look forward to. This team is on the uprise, and it's very encouraging to see these types of positive stories come out of Alameda versus a lot of the other junk that's come out over the past 10 years.
It really is the first time in 10 years to be excited about the team. And like I've said before, I'll say it again, I just hope people stay excited about the direction the Raiders are going. All right, Murph, let's take a 2-minute commercial break brought to you by our friends at Bass-O-Matic. You're listening to the Sports Degos.
And now a word from our sponsor.
How many times has this happened to you? You have a bass and you're trying to find an exciting new way to prepare it for the dinner table. You could scale the bass, remove the bass, tail, head, and bones, and serve the fish as you would any other fish dinner. But why bother now that you can use Ronco's amazing new kitchen tool, the Super Bass-O-Matic 13? Yes, fish eaters, the days of troublesome scaling, cutting, gutting are over because Super Bass-O-Matic 13 is the tool that lets you use the bass with no fish, no waste, and without scaling, cutting, or gutting. Here's how it works. Catch a bass, remove the hook, and drop the bass. That's right, the whole bass into the Super Bass-O-Matic 13. Now, just adjust the control dial so that the bass is blended just the way you like it. Yes, it's that simple.
Wow, that's terrific bass.
We've got bass here. Fast, easy, ready to port. Super Bass-O-Matic 13 comes with 10 interchangeable rotors, a 9-month guarantee, and a booklet. 1,001 ways to harness your bass. Super Bass-O-Matic 13 works great on sunfish, perch, sole, and other small aquatic creatures. That's Super Bass-O-Matic 13. It's clean, simple, and after 5 or 10 fish, it gets to be quite a rush. Super Bass-O-Matic 13. You're never gonna have to scale, cut, or gut again. Just send $49.95 to the Sports Degos, care of the Dego Dungeon, Oakland, California.
Welcome back to the Sports Degos with Sonny and the Murph. Welcome back to the Sports Degos, the sportsdegos.com. I am your host, Sonny. In studio with me is the Murph, all the way out in Tennessee.
You know, I
Murph,
just saw a text message come through notifying that in our Madden West 360 Football League, our online franchise that we run, the New York Jets defeated the Cleveland Browns 10-6. Even in fake football, Cleveland can't win.
Even in fake football, Cleveland can't win. That's a shame, Murph. That's a real shame. That's a sad shame, Murph. That's a sad, real sad shame. Sad shame. Sad shame. Sad sack shame. All right, Murph. Moving forward at a rapid pace. If we were in the movie Spaceballs, we'd be going forward at ludicrous speed.
We've gone to plaid.
Yeah, we've gone to plaid. What am I doing here? I'm on my second beer. I'm already losing.
No, you're hosting a radio show.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Sportsdegos.com, thesportsdegos.com, at thesportsdegos on Twitter. Murph.
We're related.
Oh, okay.
I don't mean to bum you out.
That makes a little sense. I'm not bummed. I'm not bummed at all. Murph, we talk a lot of Raiders.
We do.
Because, it's kind of in our blood. But, Murph, there's something else that's in our blood.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little Dego-ness, if you will.
Literally.
A little Italian culture, if you will, Murph. You know, my father's side of the family is from Sicily. My mother's side of the family is from northern Italy. So it just kind of runs all through my blood here and stuff. And every week we want to pay homage to where we come from. So Murph, this week, whopping historical fact of the week, you've done a lot of research, as you always do. In fact, the only segment you talk longer on than Beer Wars is the whopping historical fact of the week. And I have no doubt you're going to blow our minds with what you've got this week. So without any further fondue or ado, go ahead, Murph.
Well, appreciate the introduction. And yes, set your stopwatches. Grab yourself something to drink. Grab a sandwich because old Murph is fixing to ramble here. You know, I love the whopping historical fact. I say it every week, and I'll say it again this week. It is my favorite segment of the show because it allows me to dig in to do some research into a topic that maybe I'm not necessarily immediately familiar with. Because trying to find something that reflects directly on the Italian heritage or Sicilian heritage directly. You know, it's tough to find that kind of stuff. And sometimes I have to look into something that happened in history and then try to find an Italian connection. And sometimes I got to stretch and find, maybe a topic that I'm not directly familiar with. Or sometimes you get a topic that is so huge and so direct that you can't ignore it, and you got to find an Italian connection. You got to dig deep and find an Italian connection. So this week, I didn't have to dig. I found a massive happening that happened in history. You know, this thing slapped me in the forehead, nut tapped me, and said, hey, I'm here. You got to find it. So that's what happened. So on this day, May 25th, 1977, Star Wars premiered in our country. That's right. On this day, 1977, Memorial Day weekend opens with an intergalactic bang as the first of George Lucas's blockbuster Star Wars movies hits American theaters. The incredible success of Star Wars, it received 7 Oscars, earned $461 million in U.S. ticket sales and a gross of close to $800 million worldwide. It began with an extensive coordinated marketing push by George Lucas and his studio 20th Century Fox. Months before the movie's release date, it wasn't like a movie opening, actress Carrie Fisher, who played Rebel leader Princess Leia, told Time magazine. It was like an earthquake, beginning with, in Fisher's words, a new order of geeks, like me, enthusiastic young people with sleeping bags. The anticipation of a revolutionary movie-watching experience spread like wildfire, causing long lines in front of movie theaters across the country and around the world. With its groundbreaking special effects, Star Wars leaped off screens and immersed audiences in a galaxy far, far away. By now, everyone knows the story, which followed the baby-faced Luke Skywalker as he enlisted a team of allies, including the hunky Han Solo, hubba hubba, and robot C-3PO and R2-D2 on his mission to rescue the kidnapped Princess Leia from an evil empire governed by Darth Vader. This film made all 3 of its lead actors overnight stars, turning Carrie Fisher into an object of adoration for millions of young male fans, myself included, and launching Harrison Ford's now legendary career as an action hero heartthrob. Star Wars was soon a bona fide pop culture phenomenon. Over the years, it has spawned 5 more feature films, a TV series, and an industry's worth of comic books, toys, video games, and other products. 2 big screen sequels, The Empire Strikes Back, which is the best in my opinion, and Return of the Jedi featured much of the original cast and enjoyed the same success, both critical and commercial, as the first film. In 1999, Lucas stretched back in time for the 4th installment, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Your favorite, Jar Jar Binks.
Shut your mouth.
It's not shut your fat mouth yet. Chronologically, a prequel to the original movie. 2 other prequels, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, awesome, followed. The latter Star Wars movies featured a new cast, including Ewan McGregor, awesome, Liam Neeson, awesome, Natalie Portman, hot, Hayden Christensen, sad sack, have generally failed to earn the same amount of critical praise as the first 3 films. They continued to score at the box office, however, with Revenge of the Sith becoming the top-grossing film of 2005 in the United States and the second worldwide. Now, how does all this fit in?
I don't know.
Historical fact of the week. Well, I thought, George Lucas, right? He's from Modesto. He's a Central California guy. His real name's got to be like George Lucioni or something like, right? So he's got to shorten that thing up, and maybe it was like there's some kind of an Italian blood. No, George Lucas, not in Italian. The principal photography for Star Wars took place overseas in many places, the Tunisian desert, and most frequently on a London soundstage. So there's a lot of Englishmen, a lot of English influence in the Star Wars movies. So obviously, Englishmen are not Italian. But digging into the history of this film, digging into the 1977 release, on May 25th, I found that there were some very, very key Italians that played into the making of Star Wars. First off, Bert Thierry. Bert Thierry was an optical camera assistant for miniature and optical effects. He was the guy that worked inside those sound studios, working with all those miniatures when they blew up the Death Star and had all the fighters coming in, all that kind of stuff. He was one of the guys that was a camera assistant. Richard Pecorella. Richard Pecorella was another one of those guys that worked on the optical effects and worked with a lot of the miniatures. Third, Al Locatelli. Al Locatelli did the art in the for the second unit for Star Wars in Tunisia. He was the director for a lot of the art that you see. So a lot of the decor, a lot of the background things that you see in what is Tatooine in the movie, Al Locatelli, Italian, responsible for it. Next up, Joseph Lenzi. Joseph Lenzi was the production manager. Joseph Lenzi's nickname was Pepe, so Pepe Lenzi. How Italian is that? He was a production manager for the second unit, also down there in Tunisia. Next up, Dan Pieri. Dan Pieri was a key part to the title sequences. When you look at he has an extensive history in film of developing many, many title sequences that you see, and of course, none more famous than Star Wars. But the last one, and here's where I'm going to hit a home run with you, buddy. The last guy, the last Italian to be part of the Star Wars original 1977 release on this day, May 25th, Dominic Jack Pizzo Sr. This guy, while uncredited, developed the Stormtrooper costume.
Really? That was phenomenal. It was long-winded. It was, but the thing about that was beauty, is you tied in a love that we have, which is Star Wars, and it was part of the whopping historical fact of the week. It was phenomenal, Murph. It was an amazing job. Good job.
Dominic invented stormtroopers.
That's freaking pretty awesome. That's why I'm naming my first kid Dominic, Murph. That's why I'm naming my first kid Dominic. We had a call, Murph. We had a call from a listener here. I'm going to try to give him a ring while we're doing this here. I'm not sure how it's going to work. Anyway, Murph, how do you come up with the topic for Whopping Historical? What do you do?
Well, there are multiple websites that feature on this day in history, and sometimes they're really on the nose. Like I mentioned, I think last week 2 weeks ago we had Elvis and featured on Welcome Home Elvis, which was hosted by Frank Sinatra, and that's just an absolute slam dunk. Because when you look at the Mount Rushmore, as we talked about, of Italian Americans, Frank Sinatra is certainly one of the features, and so sometimes they're on the nose and sometimes they're not. But typically, I start with my research with the On This Day in History websites from history.org or history.com, things like that.
Good stuff, Murph. Good stuff. Right now, we are calling a Twitter listener. His name is Downtown Del Fuego, and he wants to talk Raiders.
We can talk some Raiders.
The phone is ringing. I cannot linger. Look out, ear. Here comes my finger. Hey, Downtown Del Fuego. Are you there?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. Yourself?
I'm doing good.
Right on. You're on. Doing well. You're on the live podcast with Sonny and Murph in the Dego Dungeon.
All right. What are we talking about tonight?
Well, a bunch of lies and horse garbage, to be honest with you. But we did talk a little bit about the Raiders, and one of the questions we had was Wes Welker signed to the Broncos, Freeney signed to the Chargers, and Woodson signed to the Raiders. Who has the biggest impact for their team and why?
Well, I mean, Welker has been productive for the past 8-10 years out of New England, and him going from Tom Brady to Peyton Manning, they're not really falling off there. So that's obvious upgrade with him, but Freeney, what does he have to work with in San Diego?
Manti Te'o? A new coach, maybe?
Well, hello?
You still there? You still there downtown? Murph? I don't think we have our caller anymore.
I don't think we have our caller. Wow, a man of few words. Not sure what Dwight Freeney has to work with down there in San Diego. You know, frankly, I'm not sure what he has to work with either. Defensive side of the football is going to struggle, and frankly, they're going to struggle on offense too, and the Raiders better beat them twice.
Moving forward, Murph, appreciate the call. Downtown Del Fuego. Not sure what happened there, but I appreciate taking the time. Come on the show. Murph, every week we look for things in the sports world.
Yeah.
Sometimes these things make us happy, and sometimes these things make us sad.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Sad sack.
It's really unfair. It's my team. It's my quarterback.
Sad sack.
I'll be lying if I said that it didn't bother me.
Sad sack.
Sometimes emotions is what makes a person.
Sad sack.
Promised Mess I wouldn't do this. But, as I said, there comes a time when
Sad sack.
Oh, I just changed my shirt. My chicken!
Sad sack.
I'm not a sad sack, am I?
You complete me.
Sad sack.
On.
You know, Sonny, like you mentioned, we like to talk about people that are, downtrodden, upset, complainers, whiners, bitchers, whatever. And we don't take kindly to folk like that. We don't handle those kind of people well. Whining is a unacceptable activity in my home. I don't let my kids whine. And they're not whiners, thankfully. And my wife's not a whiner. And I'm not a whiner, except for tonight. I am going to award the weekly sad sack to myself.
What?
I'm giving it to me, and I'm a little sad. I'm going to complain a little bit, and the reason why is because when it comes to the NBA, am a fan of the Golden State Warriors, and the Golden State Warriors. We had oh my gosh, I'm going to miss. Is it Kate Girardi? Was that her name?
Kate Girardi, yeah.
Kate Girardi. She was the marketing director for O.co and Oracle and for the A's, and she was on with us last week. Thankfully, we talked a lot about the Warriors. It was a great interview, and so, anyways, I'm a diehard Warrior fan. I enjoy them, and I'm really enjoying the direction of this team. And what we talked about with Kate was about the kind of the seemingly special connection that this team has with the fans. It all starts with Mark Jackson. It goes down to the players like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and it comes down to us as Warrior fans, whether we're there at Oracle Arena on a nightly basis, or we're watching them on TNT, or we're watching them on our DirecTV, or whatever the case may be, or we're just even following box scores, every other night. Us Warrior fans have a special connection with this team, and this team is headed in an amazing direction. Unless they signed Dwight Howard. And that's where I'm giving not only me, but the rest of the Warrior fandom base this weekly sad sack, because if this guy signs with our team, this is the stupidest, dumbest, ridiculous move. If they do a sign-and trade with the Lakers and old number 12 ends up wearing blue and yellow instead of purple and yellow, oh my gosh. We don't want this guy here we go. I'm a sad second. We don't want this guy in our team. I mean, what do you mean? What is Dwight Howard going to bring to the Warriors? He's a sad sack himself. He's an award-winning sad sacker from the sports, Degos, and he's going to bring that stuff to Oracle. We don't need that kind of mentality. We don't need a quitter. We don't need somebody that's going to have everything go his way. And if it doesn't go exactly his way, well, then he's going to poo-poo it and he's going to walk off the court. We need somebody. The chemistry of the Golden State Warriors is excellent right now. Why would you goober that up by bringing in a guy like Dwight Howard? Andrew Bogut did a phenomenal job as a big man on this team. There's no need for number 12 and his sad sack ass to come in to Oracle and play there. I don't see this being a good fit for the Warriors at all. I certainly hope this is posturing by one team or another and that this thing is going to go away, because I'm telling you, if he signs with the Warriors, that's going to be a bad move. It was a bad move in L.A. It will be a bad move in Golden State. And if they do a sign and trade, the Warriors will be stuck with him for a while. And I certainly hope that doesn't happen. It's crap. And I hope it doesn't happen. So I'm angry and I'm complaining and whatever. Sad sack. Me and the Warriors. Fan.
Yeah, Murph. Dwight Howard on the Warriors. On paper, it might sound good, but in all reality, look at it, the way he plays and look at his lack of emotional control, and I don't know, man.
The Warriors did phenomenal in the playoffs without David Lee. David Lee on that team in the playoffs, guess what? The Warriors are going to hang on and end up beating the Spurs. They almost beat them anyways. A healthy David Lee on that team, they're gonna win. And they're talking about that David Lee or Andrew Bogut is going to be the only guy that will qualify for a sign and trade. So you're taking one of the key components that have an already successful team and shipping them out of town and goofing up your chemistry. It's stupid. It's just stupid.
I don't know. We tweeted the article that we're talking about right now. The article states Howard's the best center in the game. I don't know if I can buy that. He may be the most physically gifted center in the game, but as we talked about a few episodes ago, his emotional capacity is not there. I don't care how great you are at whatever you do. If your emotional IQ is not on par, you're going to take yourself out of it. You're going to remove yourself from the opportunity to put your physical talents to use. And with Howard, I see that as just paramount. It's what's wrong with him. He's great. He's phenomenal. All the physical attributes are there. But to bring him to the Warriors, who are just starting to mesh and find their own and stuff, like, oh, man, that'd be brutal, dude. That'd be brutal. Especially with how good Lee and Bogut are and stuff. And in this article, it's saying Lee would have to be involved in the deal, or Bogut would be involved in the deal, and possibly Barnes and Klay Thompson as well.
Oh my gosh, that's just, I mean, come on.
It'd be blowing the team up to get Howard and to get the circus that is Howard. But here's the good thing. This article points out the Warriors' salary for 13-14 season is $75 million, which will likely put them in luxury tax. This year it was $70.3 million. So they won't have the space to bring on Howard unless they lose some salary from the other guys, and who knows. But overall, oh my gosh, we would be pitied. There's a book out there that talks about if something wasn't true, they are the most pitied among all. Not that I'm going to say we're going to rival those, but, if Howard came to the Warriors, oh my gosh, that'd be the worst thing ever. It'd be horrible. Yeah, we're sad sacks if that happens. I couldn't agree more.
Sad sack. Congratulations. You're the sad sack of the week. Brought to you by the Sports Degos, Murph and Sonny.
Oh, you mean this?
My clothes?
No dead air time.
Hey, sad sack. Seriously? You are the sad sack of the week with Murph and Sonny.
You were pretty close. You were pretty close. You were pretty close.
Hey, and since we just heard Uncle Mark and we're in a transition point of the show, I'd just like to say that by next week, we will welcome in another sponsor for the Sports Degos. We're recording live tomorrow with Uncle Mark, and we'll have another sponsor for the show.
Right on, man. Right on. All right, Murph. We've reached the 90-minute mark, which means our wives are outside of our doors and they're beating them down, wanting to sit on the couch and talk about the day and all that boring stuff. So,
how is Downton Abbey?
Shut up. You know what I am stoked about, Murph? Arrested Development Season 4 comes out tomorrow on Netflix. And we plan on watching all the episodes, lounging. It'll be fun. Good show.
That'll be nice. I was just going to ask if you had anything planned for this Memorial Day. This is going to be a lovely weekend, and so you're going to spend it watching Netflix. That sounds like fun, actually.
Yep. Arrested Development. Go to church and all that stuff. And give our thanks to all those who have served and made our country safe and stuff. We have some veterans in our family as well. So, we probably should have done it at the beginning of the show. But mad props to anybody out there who is serving or who has served and made shows like this possible and stuff. I don't think we think about how costly freedom is and stuff, And,
and not to totally get on a tangent, but absolutely. And, in Memorial Day, we like to think of those who, unfortunately, we've lost in that service. And that's, you're right, that it's often glossed over, but on a weekend like Memorial Day, it's not just a free day off of work. You know what I mean? It's, there's a reason that we recognize it because a lot of people lost their lives, defending our freedom and our liberties and things like that. So absolutely, props to everyone who is currently serving. And it's just it's a good week. It's a good weekend. It's a good weekend for remembrance.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Murph, in 30 seconds, this show will be in remembrance. So thank you for your hard work and dedication, Murph. We'll be coming back live again next week on the Sports Degos. Check us out, thesportsdegos.com, on Twitter @thesportsdegos. Murph, any last words?
No, just once again, thank you for all those that protect and serve. Thanks for having me back in the Dego Dungeon. Look forward to doing it again next week. Find us at the Sports Degos, thesportsdegos.com on Twitter, Facebook /thesportsdegos, and www. Who does www anymore? Just look for us at thesportsdegos.com. Wapapalooza 13, baby, October 6th.
Wapapalooza 13, October 6th. Murph, our goal should be to get that trending on Twitter. Until then, though, Murph, we will continue to try and take over the world.
We're taking over the world.